What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. We're officially ready to rock and roll for NFL Week 10. That is right. We're into double digits, more than halfway through the NFL season. It's pretty sad to see it going by so fast because we wait for so long for it to get here, and then some of us get really let down. Some of us are like, "Oh, okay, our team are that our team's a little better than we thought." But hey, the first matchup we have this weekend is the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. Frankfurt, Germany, good old international game. Jet lag will definitely be a thing. Their bodies will be trying to get used to the time zone, being a completely different time than they're used to. It's just a lot for their bodies, in terms of practicing as well, and just getting your bodies right for this game is one of the biggest factors for, as it is for every game, but especially this game, especially the international games. It's tough to get their bodies ready. It's tough to get their bodies thinking the way they would at 1 p.m. on the East Coast or wherever they are in the United States compared to where they are now in Frankfurt, Germany. So I do have the Indianapolis Colts beating the New England Patriots out this weekend. And, the Patriots, I can see the Patriots winning this one. Bill Belichick's on the hot seat. I've heard a couple of rumors, some sources that Bill can be fired if he loses this game. How would it feel to send Bill Belichick off into a loss as a Colts fan? We've been, just terrorized by Tom Brady, Bill Belichick for years in the playoffs. We ultimately got past him a couple of times, but nonetheless, it'd be pretty cool to send Bill Belichick off, this way. But all that aside, all the bias aside, I do think the Colts are playing much better. The quarterback play has been better, even though there's been a lot of turnovers. So you could take that for how you will. The offensive line is better. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to, they probably could. We're able to shorten the playbook a little bit considering the circumstances of this game, and they're really able to do that. But then that Colts defense line, they don't have Grover Stewart. That's kind of a big loss for the Patriots. They like to run the football, but as you see, the Colts are or the Patriots are 1.5-point dogs. I wouldn't touch this one. I just think it's, I don't know. This game could be really close, but I do think the Colts will win by 3 or more. It's just, it's an old-fashioned rivalry game. You have an international game. It's jet lag, all those factors. I wouldn't really touch it because something crazy could happen. You really never know between two teams that aren't really great football teams. But the Patriots are hungry for a win. They're hungry to get some, maybe some international love. They can't get any at home. But, yeah, I have the Indianapolis Colts barely squeaking this one out versus the Patriots. But it will probably be a good game at that. Next up, pretend you didn't see that. Just pretend you didn't see that, okay? All right, so the Bengals and the Texans. So I'm taking the Texans in the upset here. There is a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. The Texans had 23 players listed on their injury report on Wednesday, but then the Cincinnati Bengals are also dealing with Jamar Chase back issue. T. Higgins might not play. They're having issues in themselves. But the Texans may be getting a couple players back this week. That seems like they're going to get Derek Stingley back this week, which would be a big boost considering, I think Steven Nelson is questionable. And, really the injuries for the Texans and the Bengals is really going to be a game of, just beat up foes trying to come in here and trying to limp their way to the finish line and get the win. But I think 6.5 is a lot for the Bengals. I mean, if the Bengals do win, they probably will win by at least a touchdown. But my thing is, I'm taking the Texans to upset them in this game. I think the Texans will upset them. I'm going to take C.J. Stroud and, the way the offense, the Texans offense is playing over the Bengals. I know they just played the Bills, but that Bills defense is beat up. And, I would argue, the Texans are playing maybe a decent defense now. They have some good, defensive systems put into place. But, I mean, they just played the Buccaneers last week, and the Buccaneers have a pretty good defense, if I say so myself. And C.J. Stroud easily had one of his best games of his rookie season, and that's saying something for how good his rookie season has been. And I think C.J. Stroud having his plethora of weapons on the field, fully healthy, the offensive line seems like it's playing better for both teams. But I do think the Bengals can run the football a little better, but the Texans will be able to get a little more pressure. I'm taking the Texans in the upset over the Cincinnati Bengals. C.J. Stroud's playing at a very high level. I feel like people are still sleeping on the Texans, man. Even before this season, I'm like, listen, the Texans are a good football team. They have a lot of playmakers. They have their defense may not seem like it plays great because they allow a lot of points, and you can take it for what they will. But this is a defense that will get some turnovers, they will get pressure, they will get fumbles, interceptions. This is a defense. This is a playmaking defense, not necessarily a shutdown defense, if that makes sense. But I think Joe Burrow being without a healthy Jamar Chase, a healthy T Higgins, I'm gonna take C.J. Stroud, who is actually the hotter quarterback right now, playing really, really well. And both have really good coaches. Both have some pretty good situations, except for the offensive line. But nonetheless, I'm taking the Texans. I'm feeling the Texans in this one over the weekend over the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up. I did it the wrong way again. We have the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. So I thought this week was very tough, and as you've seen so far, we've gone through 3 matchups, and obviously this third one is another tough one to predict. It's not an easy week to predict, but I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. They are 3-point dogs in this one, but let's take into account what Tyson Bagent did last week versus the Saints defense. Tyson Bagent looked pretty good. The Bears were able to put up 23 points, and considering the Vikings have a better quarterback situation, even though he's not even been there for 2 weeks. I mean, we just saw what he did versus the Falcons. He did versus a good defense, having a game-winning drive against a good defense, having 4 or 5 days under his belt, of the playbook, and then on top of that, he doesn't know his receivers at all. So it's considering the circumstances that Joshua Dobbs had to go through that game and the way he was able to play and figure that out was really impressive. And I also want to mention that the Saints are not very good versus quarterbacks that can move and pick up first downs. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are obviously they have Joshua Downs, and that's going to open up the run game in general a bit for them. So that, and then on top of that, I don't think they're getting Justin Jefferson back this week, but they still have Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, who's both of them have been phenomenal options. Addison's that big play threat, and KJ Osborne is that really reliable guy on 3rd, 4th down, maybe even 2nd down you're trying to convert. But KJ Osborne, you have good weapons. You have T.J. Hawkinson, and the run game wasn't really there until Joshua Dobbs got there. But I think this Vikings defense is going to be able to do more than enough. They did a very good job versus the Falcons run offense last week, which is very good. Even though they have some good running backs, and it seems like coaching may be starting to fall apart over Atlanta, I still think that they did a phenomenal job stopping that run game, and the Saints run game is nowhere near as scary as the Falcons, and they're and the system isn't really there as it is for the Falcons. But we didn't really see it with the Falcons, but I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings 24-20. I'm counting on Derek Carr to make a mistake or two in this one, and to be quite blunt with you guys, I'm going to take Joshua Dobbs, Jordan Addison, and KJ Osborne over what the Saints have over there, just because of what we saw last week from Joshua Dobbs. Now there's more tape on that offense, but that's another thing to bring up. There's not as much tape on that offense with Joshua Dobbs. There's a little bit, but there's really not a lot, and that's another big plus. It's another big advantage the Vikings have, and teams have to completely relearn what the Vikings like to do, what they were offensively, because Joshua Dobbs is a completely different quarterback than Kirk Cousins. He can move he can move. He's way more athletic. Now, is he as good as a passer? No, but he provides a whole new element to this offense that can really make it difficult for defenses to prepare, especially with the limited tape they have. And the Saints defense has been inconsistent. And I think this is a game where, the offense is going to struggle a little bit, and I think the Vikings are going to come out on top. And I don't know what it is, man, but the Vikings, Vikings and Saints games, crazy things always happen. But it tends to swing in the Vikings' favor. I'm not going to lie, but I'm taking the Vikings 24-20 over the New Orleans Saints. Will be a good one though. Next up, pretty who's really gonna want to watch this one. But hey, if you're a fan of either team, good luck. I'm wishing the best for you going into this game. So both teams have pretty good defenses, and the Steelers, I should say on the start that the Steelers are 3-point favorites actually. The Steelers are one of those teams. They're 5-3, but don't let that fool you. They are capable of beating anyone. No, I shouldn't say that, because they really don't have any offense, but they're capable of staying in any game with any team. And considering you're playing a quarterback that's very inconsistent, he's been very bad. Can't really get anything going. And then on top of that, the run game is difficult to get going, and they struggle to stop the Packers will be able to run the ball, a little bit here, but it's not going to be enough. The Packers' offense line has been very bad. They still might be able to run a little bit just because of how talented their backfield is. But they have decent receivers, but Jordan Love just ain't it, man. He just isn't it. And I'm gonna take the Steelers. I'm gonna take a Mike Tomlin, a more disciplined, a better coaching, a little bit better quarterback play in Kenny Pickett. Not much, but I'd say it's a pretty marginal difference, but it's noticeable. I would say the Steelers' offensive line might be better than the Packers. Maybe the weapons aren't as good, but you still have some really good weapons: Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. I'd say they're about the same. They're different kind of receivers, but the defensive wise, the Steelers should have no issue at all against Jordan Love in this offense. It's very anemic. They can't get anything going ever. And for that reason, I think that the Steelers defense is going to make that extra play, and that's where they're going to get that. And, that's where they're going to get those extra 3 points from. If you ask me, I wouldn't touch this game. I would not bet on this game whatsoever, but that's just me. There's a lot of games I wouldn't bet on this week. It's a tough week, but I'm taking the Steelers 17-14 over the Green Bay Packers. I don't think Jordan Love will be able to do enough, and the Steelers defense will be able to win them the game. As, that Steelers defense has won them almost all their games, if not all of them. All right, next up, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Tennessee Titans. So the Buccaneers are 1.5-point favorites, rightfully so. They have a really good, I was going to say a really good defense. They struggled last week, but they did play a really good quarterback, but their defense is good. Don't let that last week fool you. They have a good defense, and, considering you have a veteran defensive minded going up against Will Levis. Will Levis looked okay. Even when the passes are there for the receivers, the passes are a little high. But considering what he's working with, his offensive line isn't really good. You got Peter Skoronski, about it, but the offensive line hasn't been really there. The weapons aren't really there. You do have D-Hop, but after that, is there anyone that can make plays consistently? No. So other teams can really just hone in on Hop. And this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense and the defensive mind that they have at the helm is going to be too much for Will Levis. And I think that's going to be a difference in this one. I can see a defensive touchdown for the Buccaneers all the way here, whether it's a pick six or fumble six. I think it'll be a pick six more than likely. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bucs 20-16 over the Tennessee Titans. It's just Baker Mayfield has been clutch in big time moments, and this is going to be a close game. So Baker Mayfield having to make plays in those moments, he has done that. And he's been a decent quarterback, really. I mean, they had their best offensive game last week. It wasn't the offense's fault. They allowed, 36 points? And they didn't play great defense. And they're not playing a great defense this week. So can they put the same amount of points? It doesn't really matter what defense the Bucs play, in my opinion. They're going to have some weeks where they score a lot. They're going to have some weeks where they don't. It's just kind of the nature of the game when you have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. It's been inconsistent, but he has been really playing better and, showing a lot of improvement from previous years. But, of course, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. He's got more weapons than what Levis has. I'd take Baker over Levis. I'll take, the Bucs offensive line. They should be able to run the ball pretty well on the defense. I just think too many arrows are pointing in the Buccaneers' direction in this one. Next up, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars at home taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So, typically when teams go down to Jacksonville, the humidity hits them. But the Niners are such a darn good football team. They're so well coached. And, they're coming off a 3-game losing skid. They're coming off of their bye week. They're hungry. And they're coming after a very inconsistent Jaguars football team. They're going to come after Trevor Lawrence this week, and they're going to come after Travis Etienne. It's going to be a long day for this Jaguars offense. I have them scoring 19. Probably going to be a lot of field goals in there, which is basically what I got there for you. But I have Brock Purdy and, that Niners offense going down and putting them up 8 points to really make, to give the Jaguars a difficult time going down the field the last drive, and they're not going to be able to do it. But I just think that the Niners are overall a better football team, and, I would take this. I would bet on this game. I would bet on this over. I would take the Niners in this one. I think the Jaguars being only 3-point underdogs is I think that's an advantageous betting matchup that you can take there. I don't think the Jaguars are that great of a football team now. It's been a weird NFL year where a lot of teams are very inconsistent. Some teams are good here, some teams are good there. It's a very weird the way this year has gone. There's really hasn't been that one dominant football team until the Ravens recently and the Niners and the Cowboys early on this season. We really haven't had, a consistent dominant football team. And I think the 49ers are going to show the Jaguars what a dominant team really looks like. The Jaguars are a good football team. Don't get me wrong. They have a good quarterback. Trevor Lawrence isn't great. He's not phenomenal. He's good. He's very inconsistent. What Trevor Lawrence are you going to get? Are you going to get great Trevor Lawrence? Are you going to get crappy Trevor Lawrence? It depends. If they get a great Trevor Lawrence all game long, I can see the Jaguars winning this one. But that's the issue. We haven't seen that from Trevor Lawrence at all. Since he's gotten to the NFL, really, he's been so inconsistent. He just makes weird decisions sometimes. Sometimes passes are just behind receivers or they're too high. It's just very confusing for a generational prospect. A lot of people labeled him as, and he doesn't really seem like, I think people are holding on to that generational tag, and that's why they still think he's great. I made the mistake ranking him at 7 or 6 in this offseason prior to the season, but I don't think he's that. Maybe he's like 10 to 12 range. He's inconsistent, man. If he could pull out the great Trevor Lawrence and play and do that 24/7, he could be as good as Mahomes, and that's the truth. But Trevor Lawrence's best is up there with Mahomes's. It's up there with the Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. But it's so few and far in between. It's tough. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but I would definitely take the Niners here in this money line. I think it's a big one. Now if you come back and they don't beat it, whatever. But it is what it is. I would absolutely bet on this game on the Niners. I would smash that. But the Jaguars just too inconsistent. They've been they've struggled at times. They did beat some good football teams. They did beat the Bills, but that was a very sloppy football game. They did lose to the Texans early on in the season, so we'll see what kind of defense we get as well. Very inconsistent team. You never know what you're going to get from week to week. I'm taking the Niners, 27-19. Next up, you have the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. Hold up, I have this wrong. All right, so I have it fixed. My apologies. So the Ravens are at home in this one, facing off the Cleveland Browns. They are 6.5-point favorites. I wouldn't touch that line. I know the not the Bengals, wrong team, wrong NFC, wrong AFC North team. The Ravens have been killing everyone. They killed the Lions. They killed the Seahawks. Both were considered some of the better teams in the NFC. The Lions have been very good this season. The Seahawks have been very good this season. And the Ravens have killed them both. And I think a lot of people are going to look at this 6.5 and be like, oh, yeah, the Ravens got this. Well, the Ravens are going to kill the Browns. Hold up there, Cowboy. It's a divisional game. The Browns have really good defense. Deshaun Watson feels like he's just starting to catch some fire. The Browns can still run the football. Now they're going up against a whole different animal that they've played the last couple of weeks. They're playing one of the better defenses in the NFL. They're playing one of the better teams in the NFL right now. The best team in the NFL right now, in my opinion. They've been dominant. Killing teams that we think are very good football teams, that we see as very good football teams. Just killing them, manhandling them like they're garbage, like they're bottom of the barrel. No, the Ravens are, have just been that dominant. But I think it's easy to look at those games and be like, hey, yes, I'm taking that 6.5. I'm going to take the Ravens that killed the Browns. But remember, it's a divisional game. There's no one that knows each other more than these two. Both are fighting for a good seeding, the division. So the Browns are going to put up a fight, man. And that defense, I think this is the number 1 versus number 2 ranked defense. I think the Browns have the number 1 and the Ravens have the second. So it's probably going to be a defensive battle. But I do think the Ravens have a little more firepower. They're a great football team. Offensive line has been great. They've been more complete. And that is why I'm taking the Ravens to edge out the Browns here. Now, do I think that the Ravens are miles ahead better than the Browns? Absolutely. No. But I think the Ravens have a lot more firepower. They have a little bit of that more oomph to them on offense, and that's going to be a difference in this game. I have more confidence in Lamar Jackson, Odell Beckham, Mark Andrews than Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and Njoku. You know what I'm saying? I do really like Elijah Moore. I do really like some other pieces they have there as well. And don't forget, the Ravens, you have Zay Flowers, who's been amazing. You have, it seems like he's cooled down since the beginning of the season, though. But you have Zay Flowers. You have Rashad Bateman. You have a lot of really nice weapons on that roster, on that team. And, well, look at how well Lamar Jackson has played since you've given him the weapons and the proper, players to throw the football to. Look at how great he has looked. He is looking like every bit of MVP Lamar, and I wouldn't be shocked if we start hearing MVP chants out of Baltimore this weekend. But yeah, I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're going to be able to get the job done. They're going to be able to run the Browns. That's one thing you could do against the Browns. You could run against them. That's kind of their, their chink in their armor there, their weakness. And the Ravens, they could run the darn football. They only have the most athletic, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL that can kill you on the ground. One of the best to ever do it on the ground as a quarterback. And they can run really well. Really strong offensive line. So, that's why I'm taking the Ravens. Because they've been more dominant. They've been the more complete team. They can make that extra play on offense. They can make that extra play throwing or running the football. And that's why I have the Browns winning this one. But I still wouldn't take that 6.5. I would not bet on the Ravens with that 6.5. Absolutely not. That is, yeah, I wouldn't. Would not one bit. Wouldn't touch it. All right, next up, you have the Arizona Cardinals and the Atlanta Falcons. So the Cardinals are 1.5-point underdogs. Falcons had a really, really disappointing last weekend. You had it. And the best part of your team couldn't get the job done. Your defense couldn't do it. Your running game couldn't win you the game. Tyler Heinicke got very fortunate. They didn't throw 4 or 5 interceptions in that game. I'm taking the Cardinals to win this one. The Cardinals are due. They've been playing hard. They're gonna play everyone tough. They don't care who you are. They don't care if you're the Niners. They don't care if you're the Panthers or the Falcons. They're gonna play it. They're gonna give it your all. Their all. And they're getting Kyler Murray back this week as well. So you're gonna have to worry about them running the football. And the Falcons struggled. Against Joshua Dobbs last week, especially on the ground. So they're gonna have to find a way to contain Kyler Murray. But I think that's what's going to be the difference in this game. Kyler Murray is going to make that extra play throwing and running the football over Tyler Heinicke. Now, the Cardinals, they may not have the weapons there. They may not have, the weapons the Falcons do. They may not be able to control the game like the Falcons may be able to do in this game. But I'm trusting Kyler Murray to make that extra throw, to make that extra big-time run. So I'm not going to spend too much more time in this game, but I am taking the Cardinals 24-20. I don't know if I wouldn't bet on this one. Like I said, there's a lot of games this week that are tough to bet on. I wouldn't bet on this. Absolutely not. But, yeah. I'm taking the Cardinals 24-20. Next up, oh, man, this is a treat. Last weekend when I was looking at the slate for next week, I'm like, oh, my, I cannot wait for this game. The Chargers and the Lions. The Chargers are heating up. The Lions are looking pretty good. This is going to be a great game. I cannot wait. So I do have the Chargers beating the Lions 31-28, which means Lions would be on a 2-game losing streak. They lost going to the bye. Not playing the Chargers in LA. And one thing I have to say about the Chargers is where I'm really impressed with the Chargers. They really have solidified that run defense. And that defense in general has gotten better. And you see what happens when the defense can play decent and Justin Herbert has some guys to throw to? You're going to get some great games. You're going to get wins. You're going to see fireworks. That's what this team is about. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Give him a chance. And as you've seen, when you have given him a chance, he's delivered. He's been one of the best quarterbacks since he's been drafted. Maybe the win percentage isn't there. Maybe he doesn't have the wins that maybe Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or maybe even Josh Allen has. But he has played just about as good as those guys, if not better. Just because his team wasn't winning doesn't mean he wasn't playing as good or better. And, it is a team sport. And I will say there were a few times last year where I'm like, yeah, he could have made the extra play there, but at the same time his receiver dropped it. There's only so much that Justin Herbert could do. With that being said, I'm going to take Justin Herbert to make that extra play over Jared Goff. The Chargers' offense has been high-powered. The Lions' defense has proven to struggle versus teams with, decent firepower on offense. They struggled versus the Seahawks early in the season. They've struggled at points. They struggled versus the Ravens' offense. Now, this is very different than the Ravens' offense, but the Chargers should be able to put up points. And the Lions, they like to lean on that run game. There's nothing wrong with that. And Jared Goff has won them a few games. You can't say that Jared Goff hasn't been good. But I don't care what Jared Goff you give me. I'm going to take Justin Herbert with that extra play. That's where I'm giving the edge between these two teams as a quarterback play. The Lions could win in the trenches. Their defense line has been inconsistent, which will give Justin Herbert a little more time. But, the Lions' offensive line should be able to win on their end. But I'm trusting Justin Herbert to make that extra play in the air. Chargers are underdogs by 3, which I get. Lions have been very good. The Chargers are still, they didn't start very good. So people are still wary. But I'm taking the Chargers in the upset over the Lions this weekend, man. Jared Goff in that run game has been great. But you can't tell me that you would take him over Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right. We'll make it quick. I have the Dallas Cowboys beating up on the New York Giants 31-10. The Cowboys are 17.5 point favorites. That's like a college spread right there. That's like a college spread. But rightfully so. The Giants have been a very bad football team, to say the least. I will give them their props. Their defense, besides this last week versus the Raiders, their defense has looked much better. They did a very good job versus the Bills. Did a very good job versus the Jets, which take that for how you will, but they did a very good job versus the Bills. The Cowboys, man, it's just a different powerhouse, man. Cowboys are going to get after whoever's in the backfield. Whoever's throwing the football, whether it's Tyrod Taylor or Tommy DeVito. They're not going to have time to throw the football. Receivers can't get open. Defense will get tired out. I have the Dallas Cowboys 31-10 over the New York Football Giants. All right, next up, upset of the week. Another upset for me. I have the Washington Commanders knocking off the Seattle Seahawks. As you see, the Seahawks are favored by 6.5. This is a trap game, 100%. This has trap game written all over it. And the Seahawks, they've been a very good defensive football team. They've been very good on defense. But they really struggle on offense. And it doesn't seem like it matters who they play on offense. They're not really great on offense regardless. And the Commanders have one of the worst defenses in the league. It's a very bad defense. And the Seahawks have some really good weapons. They do. But they struggle in the red zone. They cannot get it done in the red zone. Geno Smith has been inconsistent. And, the Commanders, man, Sam Howell has looked every part of an awesome quarterback. He's been so darn good and no one's talking about it. And Sam Howell has been hit more than any other quarterback in the league. I believe the Commanders have allowed the most sacks. Yet Sam Howell is still playing like one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Maybe not one of the best, but he's been playing really well. Really, really well. Like impressive. Like, wow, he's got that dog in him. Wow, he's got that playmaking ability in him. He does. A lot of people are talking about him because it's the Washington Commanders. And the defense sucks. And the offensive line sucks. But he's got some really nice weapons to throw to. And he is making it work. I'm taking Sam Howell in that offense to make that extra play and beat the Seahawks this weekend. The Seahawks offense has been inconsistent. Now, their defense is very good. But let's see how they're going to do this weekend. This is a big game for the Seahawks. Big, big game. They need to bounce back. But, this has trap game written all over it. Now, I don't know if I wouldn't touch this one. It is a big spread. between two football teams that have struggled this season. The Seahawks have been the better football team. That's why they're favored by 6.5, obviously. But I'm just sticking with my gut feeling here, man. I'm going with the Commanders. We see crazy things happen every single week. And I'm taking the Commanders to defeat the Seahawks. Up next, these primetime matchups have sucked this year. Is it just me, or has primetime football sucked for the most part? I mean, at least we got the Bills and the Bengals last week. At least we got that. But now, we're back to the Jets and the Raiders. Great. It's gonna be a defensive battle. The Raiders don't have a great defense, but the Jets have a horrible offense. The Jets will probably be able to run the football a lot, and they could probably push the score up by running the ball. Maybe Zach Wilson can make that extra play or two to Garrett Wilson. But I can also see the Raiders making that extra play with Aiden O'Connell, Devontae Adams, and such, and they looked phenomenal last week. And we see many, many, many times when a team fires their head coach, the next week they play like some of the best teams in the league. They play phenomenal. They always find a way to win. And that the Raiders did. They put a whooping on the Giants. They opened up a good old-fashioned can of ass whooping. They're not going to do it this week. That Jets defense is too good. It's too much. Now, you can say that Giants defense has been better, except versus the Raiders, of course. But the Jets defense is no joke. You have Sauce. You have a great defense. They're going to get after their quarterback. They're going to stop the run. This is a true test for Aiden O'Connell. But I'm going to take the better defense and the better coaching in this one. Although, we really don't know about the Raiders coaching yet. But I'm taking the New York Jets 2016 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Last but not least, Monday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills at home taking on the Denver Broncos as 7-point favorites. I don't think this one, don't overthink this one. Now, the Bills haven't been playing well. They've been struggling. They've been reeling. And that's no secret. They're struggling versus the Giants. They lost versus the Patriots a couple weeks ago. And they really struggle versus the Bengals. And it feels like the Bills always have this slump in the middle of the season. Always. And Josh Allen isn't playing well. Maybe it's their experimenting period. I don't know. But I'm not going to overthink this one. And the Broncos, before the bye week, they beat the Chiefs, and then they have the whole week off. They're playing another really high-powered team. Somehow their defense only allowed the Chiefs to score 9 points. Interesting. But, yeah, man. I got the Buffalo Bills 31-13. Let's not overthink it. This is a very easy one to overthink because of the way the two teams have played. But the Bills are flat out the better football team. They're flat out better. So, hey, that is all I got from me. Thank you guys for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. I hope that you guys enjoyed our NFL Week 10 picks, predictions, giving you my thoughts on some of the lines. Now, this video was recorded a little bit before the game, so if the lines change, that is your responsibility to check them. And make sure you bet responsibly, of course. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you can see future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.